Welcome to Vet Chalk. Exposing how veterans get screwed. By Eric Lee Hughes, accredited claims agent. The new Judicial Review and Veteran Affairs dirty trick. Previously on Vet Chalk. The Economy Act and the Veteran Service Organizations created the knife in the back when Congress deprived veterans of judicial review and made VA king. No one suffered more from the knife in the back than the Vietnam veterans. The Vietnam War started on November 1, 1955, when President Eisenhower deploys the Military Assistance Advisory Group to help. Eventually, 2,700,000 Americans would serve and 58,220 would die in the jungle. To clear the jungle, the U.S. military would spray 11,220,000 gallons of herbicide, aka Agent Orange, throughout the region. When Vietnam veterans came home, a strange thing was happening. In addition to the normal wounds of war, they suffered skin rashes, cancer, and their kids were born with birth defects at alarming rates. Despite a clear correlation, their claims were denied. Thanks to the knife in the back, they could not force VA to change its mind. Vietnam veterans were looked down on by society and the media labeled them baby killers. When they would come home, college students would spit on them. King VA convinced older veterans that if VA paid for these new unexplained illnesses Vietnam veterans claimed, it would cost the old guys their benefits. So, not being accepted by the old VSO system, Vietnam veterans formed their own service organizations. Armed with new VSO leadership, a righteous cause, and their huge numbers, the Vietnam veterans started to lobby Congress. They sought two things: benefits for whatever Agent Orange did to them and the right to have their day in court. It took years. But they slowly started to win the argument. For now, let's focus on judicial review. The first congressional hearing on judicial review occurred in 1977. Congress would conduct similar hearings every subsequent Congress. On November 18, 1988, all veterans got a break. That is when the Veterans Judicial Review Act was signed into law by President Ronald Reagan. King VA was not happy he had to answer to the new Court of Appeals for veterans' claims. He was especially unhappy that even if he got away there, he still had to answer to the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals and the U.S. Supreme Court. He hatched a plan. In the old days, before the knife in the back, veterans could appeal decisions rendered by VA to outside bodies and hold VA accountable. Many of those old precedent decisions benefited veterans. What follows if VA's dirty trick? While celebrating victory, Vietnam veterans didn't notice what VA did on Monday, February 6, 1989. This was just days before the new Veterans Court took office. VA changed Part 14 of Title 38 of the Federal Code of Regulations. In the comments on page 5611 of Volume 54, Number 23, of the Federal Register, King VA wrote, "The Administrator of Veterans Affairs has long since discontinued the practices of approving and adopting as administrators decisions, legal opinions prepared by the General Counsel, and of issuing instructions for the implementation of statutes. Although such documents are largely of historical interest at this time, Board of Veterans Appeals regulations continue to contain a provision binding the Board to follow decisions and instructions of the Administrator in its consideration of appeals. A similar antiquated reference to administrators' decisions and opinions approved by the Administrator and to defined policies as enunciated by the Administrator also appears in agency adjudication regulations. In order to update the regulations and simplify the classification system for legal opinions, the agency is amending 38 CFR 3.101 and 19.103 to delete reference to the Administrator's decisions, opinions approved by the Administrator, and instructions and enunciated policies of the Administrator. Pursuant to this change, such decisions, opinions, instructions, and policy statements will be without precedential or conclusive effect in future agency adjudications. What all that previous text means is that King VA rules he could still do whatever he wanted to do, and the court would be powerless to hold VA to follow his past decisions. This forced the court to act as if the 324 some odd years of veterans' claims history in the U.S. didn't exist. Just like magic, King VA gave itself a get out of jail free card. Now that is a dirty trick. To find out what King VA was hiding, watch the next episode of Vet Chalk, exposing how veterans get screwed. Please like and share.